is what's going to get us the policies of tomorrow. Don't think Democrats are your savior. Politicians are not the savior. They're the tool. Like anything, it's how you use that tool. Much like I'm a tariff guy. Donald Trump is just destroying the tool that tariffs are. What should we be organizing around? Now, me as a labor guy, I say labor rights and fighting for better wages, hours, conditions, opportunities in the workplace, safer workplaces, more protections, push for OSHA regulations to be strengthened. And oh, by the way, maybe just go back to a couple years ago where it only would take 141 years to inspect every workplace as opposed to 185 years. Maybe increase the amount of inspectors so that we can keep workers safer. And then we organize around the idea of, every working person I've ever met goes, the reason I'm doing the job I'm doing, the reason I'm working as long as I am, or why I haven't retired already, healthcare. Instead of allowing Trump to go after and destroy the Affordable Care Act, we need to strengthen it. We need to make it more accessible. We need to go after making Medicare more accessible for younger workers, maybe as young as 50. We need to start moving towards a Medicare for all system. For my environmental and climate justice folks, we need to be pushing on that front because guess what? This guy has basically undone every bit of progress that was done during the Biden years and even putting back further than that. There's a lot of stuff to organize around. If you're a teacher, you're an educator, education and job training opportunities, there's an opportunity to organize around that. If you're, like me, a tax junkie, you want to talk about economic policies and how we can have tax policies that benefit working families, there's a place to organize, but we can't bury our heads. And look, we can go down the list, equal rights and anti-discrimination. We want voting rights, political engagement, policy advocacy. There's so much to do. So just sitting back and fretting over, it's terrible, it's all bad. That's not going to help us. What helps us is activism, engaged, active, informed citizens, ready to take to the streets, empowered, people who understand that together we're stronger. Think about the Nixon era. You got the EPA and OSHA. You had millions of people marching in the streets saying we want to protect our climate. We want to protect our air. We don't want rivers burning. We don't want our children having asthma. And we got the EPA, the Clean Water and Clean Air Act. We got OSHA. They were even talking about a national health care program because workers were demanding it. It's that kind of power. Now you think Richard Nixon wanted to do those things? No. It's because he understood politically we, the voting people, the people who have the most power in this country, the people who cast the ballots, they demanded it. And this is a moment for me where there's an awakening, where my red hat friends are going, this isn't what we voted for. This isn't what I wanted. I just wanted cheaper eggs. I wanted my life to get a little bit better. Well, you know what? It's not. This is an opportunity to reach across that aisle, swallow a little bit of pride, and say, how do we come together and say, hey, I want a better life. I want better opportunities. And how do we push those tools in Washington and in state capitals across this country to do what we want? We start throwing some of the bums out with the greatest term limiter ever devised, your right to vote. Want to hear your thoughts? Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. Want to hear your thoughts of the first 100 days or whatever else is banging around. Miss any portion of the program, grab the podcast. And as always, thanks for being here.
You've been listening to The Rick Smith Show. Email Rick at rick@thericksmithshow.com. Until next time, this has been The Rick Smith Show, where working people come to talk.
AP News, I'm Marcela Sanchez. AP correspondent Ben Thomas reports President Trump marked his first 100 days in office with a campaign-style rally.
Hello, Michigan.
President Trump celebrated the 100th day of his second term in Michigan.
In 100 days, we have delivered the most profound change in Washington in nearly 100 years. I read an editorial today that this is the most consequential presidency in history. How about that?
In campaign mode, repeatedly mocking predecessor Joe Biden and bringing up the familiar lie that he won the 2020 presidential election.
We actually won it 3 times. You want to really know that?
And he says things are only going to get better.
In the next fiscal year, it'll all be done. We're going to have something that you won't even believe. We will end inflation, slash prices. We've already ended inflation, raise wages, and give you the greatest economy in the history of the world. That's already happening.
AP correspondent Karen Shamas reports on the latest from the Canadian elections.
Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney's Liberals have fallen short of winning an outright majority in Parliament in a vote widely seen as a rebuke of President Donald Trump. The election results emerged on Tuesday, a day after the party scored a stunning comeback victory. Carney's rival, populist Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre, was in the lead until Trump took aim at Canada with a trade war and threats to annex the country as the 51st state. The Liberals could be left just 3 seats shy of a majority. That means they'll have to seek help from another, smaller party to pass legislation. The Liberal Party seemed likely to find the extra votes necessary, but it was not clear where they would come from. I'm Karen Shamas.
Authorities in India say a fire in the eastern city of Kolkata has killed at least 14 people. Police say the fire broke out Tuesday evening at the Rituraj Hotel. The cause was not immediately clear. This is AP News. An NBA star has scolded his father for sparking a post-game disturbance in the NBA playoffs. Correspondent Gethin Coolball reports.
Pacers star Tyrese Halliburton is not a fan of his father's actions after Indiana's series-clinching victory over Milwaukee on Tuesday night.
I don't think that my pops was in the right at all there.
After his son made a game-winning layup to clinch a 119-118 overtime win in Game 5, John Halliburton stepped onto the court and confronted two-time MVP and Bucks star Giannis Antetokounmpo. The interaction led to a post-game scuffle between Halliburton's teammates and the Bucks.
I think it's the emotions of the game just got excited there. But I talked with him. I'll talk with Giannis.
Antetokounmpo says John Halliburton's behavior was out of line.
Disrespecting me and cursing at me, I think is totally unacceptable.
I'm Gethin Coolbaugh.
I'm Marcela Sanchez, AP News.
This is 8:20 a.m. WCPT Willow Springs and streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Now, your WCPT 820 weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. We'll see a few spotty rain showers possible late today, otherwise increasing clouds with a high in the mid-60s. Winds out of the southeast around 5 to 10 miles per hour. And for tonight, a chance for rain showers and thunderstorms, cloudy, a low near 55. Thursday, chance for showers and storms, high of 68 degrees. Friday, a chance for rain showers here late, partial sunshine develops, a high of 64. That's your latest Chicago weather update. Currently, it's 46.
On the battlefield, there's a saying America's military men and women live by. Never leave a fallen warrior behind, ever. Off the battlefield, Wounded Warrior Project operates with the same goal. Wounded Warrior Project was created to help our men and women returning home with the scars of war, whether those scars are physical or mental. Wounded Warrior Project. We never leave a fallen warrior behind, ever. Learn more about what we do at woundedwarriorproject.org.
Hey Google, play WCPT.
Streaming Chicago's progressive talk from TuneIn.
Welcome to Choose Views with Richard Chew. Get ready to dive into a world of insightful conversations and thought-provoking discussions.
As progressives, our job is to have an all-inclusive, full-on assault with all of our players.
A show that focuses on moving our political, social, economic, gender, and cultural conversation forward.
And all of our players means all of our players.
It's Choose Views. And now, here's your host, Richard Chew.
Good Wednesday morning, progressives, and welcome to the April 30th, golly, Henry, 2025 edition of Choose View, 773-763-9278. Facebook Live, TuneIn Radio, YouTube, and iHeartRadio. Email me at richard@WCPT820.com and catch me on Substack. Catch all of our shows, obviously, by subscribing to our WCPT podcast on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. There you can get Choose Views, the short version and the long version. Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive. Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez. The Big Picture with Edwin Eisendrath. Out Chicago, and our other shows and interviews. Check out our heartlandsignal.com digital platform for all the good material that we have there and the things that you want to share with the folks that are in your progressive world, and even the folks that are not in your progressive world. You know, we talk about how we've got to stay focused on the people that are leaning in our direction, and we do. And so sometimes, and we know in this climate that we're in, some of those people may not necessarily be leaning in our direction. So put your energy toward the people who are leaning in our direction, because they're going to be a lot easier to get back in the game and to help stay in the game. But go to our heartlandsignal.com website to find a lot of our great information that we have there. Today's guest on our show, of course, our Hoosier Blue 63 man, Kurt Mullet, will be with us in the 7 o'clock hour. He had an interesting thing happen in terms of a person that he had a chance to chat with, and then I'm sure Kurt will talk about that this morning in the 7 o'clock hour. So I don't want to spoil his thunder. And then in the 7:30 hour, we'll be talking with Illinois State Representative Debbie Myers Martin, talking about a condition. This is in the medical space, in the healthcare space. Talking about a medical condition that many of you may be familiar with, but doesn't get a lot of conversation. And that would be sarcoidosis. And it is a serious illness, and it's one that we'll talk about. And it's a bill that she's working toward having more, promotion, I should say, regarding this particular condition and how many Americans are affected by it. So we'll be talking with her in the 7:30 hour. Topics that we'll try to get to today, of course, we're going to talk about tariffs and labeling, income inequality. We've got a clip that I want you guys to hear, wages, and we'll definitely get to some other important information. And still, the conversation question of the time, I won't just say of the day, is what do you want the Democrats on a national level to be focusing on? And there could be more than one thing, obviously, but I do want to hear from you guys in that space. So make sure to give us a holler and let us know, or you can send a text. We try to get through your texts as best we can. We don't always get to every one of them because you guys you love to send them. So sometimes we don't get to them as quickly or as regularly as we want to. So we try to give you the shout outs that we can. But listen, before we get to Choose Views News, I wanted to just kind of remind everybody. So yesterday, I really leaned in on the conversation around why we have to be really fighting and really vigilant right now, and that I know that it's hard work, and I know that we've got to, what's the word I want to use? We've got to pace ourselves, but we still have to stay in the race. Still have to stay in the game. And I talked about this from the perspective of what Democrats have done versus what Republicans have not done when it comes to reducing the deficit and our economy in general. And I had a couple of folks that said to me, "Can you read that list again?" So I'll do that. The question that I asked day before yesterday was, day before yesterday, the presidents that have reduced the deficit. There's only been 3 in the last 50 years, and those are Clinton, Obama, and Biden. But I also spoke to something that Vice President Harris talked about, and a few of you had asked if I would reread this list, and that list being the numbers of things that have changed or that are going to change, just things that have changed in 100 days that are going to have impact as we go through the rest of this year. And Henry, you may or may not have heard this. 46% of toy companies in the U.S. say they expect to go out of business within weeks. 128,000 federal jobs lost. Federal workers, I should say, lost their jobs in 60 days. 40% of cargo ships leaving China for the U.S. were empty. Shoes expected to go up 87% in price. Apparel expected to go up 65%. U.S. exports expected to drop 18%. Tourism in the United States is down 20%, and all foreign goods up at least 10%. So I wanted to reference back to that because, sorry about that, turned away from the mic. Some of you said, can you read that list again? Listen, we know that historically, and then we'll just say the last 50 years, since that's the point I was making yesterday, the Republicans have done a poor job of managing the economy. They've made it worse, documented, not anecdotal. They've made it worse, data-based, than Democrats have. They just have. Democrats have cleaned up and fixed the problem. And now that we're in this sort of 100-day window, I'll be talking to some people in the next week that have some, on-the-ground perspectives about these 100 days, that are in certain sectors of business that can chat with us a little bit about what they've actually seen. And so I'm looking forward to having a couple people that will come on the show and talk a bit about that. But in this moment regarding these concerns, what I think is really, really critical is coming together to fight back. And I say that a lot because I mean it, I believe in it, and it's something that we have to own, that is where we are today. I hear some people in the I'll call it the progressive conversation, more willing to throw darts at Democrats than to find ways to uplift and make Democrats stronger. And I'm not doing that. I'll do it when it's appropriate, when it's necessary in terms of a specific thing, like I've done with Gavin Newsom. That was wrong, flat out, to go on, to have those folks on, Charlie Kirk and Bannon on his show. It's flat out wrong. Now, and his position that seems to have changed when it comes to the LGBTQ, more specifically trans community. Okay, I will call the things out on an individual basis in terms of individual actions. And unless I'm given a reason to completely, full paintbrush somebody in terms of calling them out, I try to direct it so that it's more effective. And why am I saying that in this moment? It's because I don't want to see Democratic voices targeting each other. And last week I put an article on Substack about the Democratic Vice Chair, David Hogg. And I got some feedback. I got a lot of feedback. Not some. I got a lot of feedback on that, in that space. Because it says that some people were saying, hey, Chew, it sounds like you are just defending everything the Democrats do. And I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that at all. Listen to the tape in previous shows. I call it out on a situational basis as best I can, and not paintbrush somebody unless they give a reason to us to do that. The reason that I took the position and still have the position with regard to David Hogg is the targeting methodology and tools that were to be used would be harmful. And you heard even Governor Pritzker in his speech in New Hampshire say, we have to stop doing that without having another side of the or an end result or direction where we're going with this. And I lean into what Governor Pritzker is saying as it relates to, we have to, if we're going to criticize, then we have to have then a solution about how we go forward and what we're going to do with that criticism. I guess the conversation right now with regard to David Hogg is, Ken Martin said, straighten up and fly right. I'll just use the old Nat King Cole song to identify what we know. We don't know what went on behind closed doors. We got the snippets of what they talked about and how things are going to play out. But it's about us making sure we're working together rather than working against each other. And I'm going to talk about an area, again, I've said this before, and you guys know there's a couple of areas, a couple of groups that, in addition to our congressional leaders, our state leaders, our local leaders, and coming together, there are a couple of other groups that have to come together, and they have to show their strength. And if they don't, then, as Mr. T used to say, I pity the fool. Sorry about that, guys. But we have to make sure that we're reminding them that they have to come together. They have to stick together. They can't be one-offs, because one-offs are easy to target. A herd of anything is harder to take down than an individual, and so in that includes these groups. So when we come back from the break, We'll talk a little bit about that more in depth. And we'll talk about a change that is coming in terms of chronology. And you guys will see what I mean in a moment. So let's take a quick break. 773-763-9278. This is Choose Views, and we'll be right back.
This is a WCPT Veteran Minute. When Pearl Harbor was attacked, men of all races across the country volunteered to join the fight, despite the United States Army being heavily segregated. Black enlistees were mostly assigned to combat support roles. But this did not stop Lieutenant Colonel Paul L. Bates, who knew of the racism and pushed his soldiers to achieve excellence. The 761st Tank Battalion was formed in the spring of 1942. It contained 30 black officers, 6 white officers, and 676 enlisted men. The unit donned the nickname the Black Panthers, wearing patches on their uniforms with a panther on it and the slogan, "Come Out Fighting." And in 1944, the 761st was assigned to General George Patton's Third Army in France. General Patton gave a colorful speech to his crew, and the Black Panthers became the first African-American tank squad in World War II. And by the end of the war, the Black Panthers had fought further east than every other United States unit, receiving 391 decorations for their heroism.
Hey Google, play WCPT.
Streaming Chicago's progressive talk from TuneIn.
It's Choose View with Richard Chew on WCPT 820, where facts matter.
Hey, progressives, welcome back to Choose Views. 773-763-9278. Let's give you guys a couple of quick Choose Views items. Then we're going to pivot to something that I want to talk about this morning in this segment. GM cans their outlook amid tariff draft. General Motors tossed its profit guidance for the year on yesterday, saying that the Trump administration's auto tariffs could have a significant, though still undefined, impact. The automaker said also that its net income dipped 6.6%. Wow. In the first quarter, with customers buying fewer pricey SUVs and labor costs rising at the same time. Less income and increased costs. In brighter news, however, GM's revenue crept up more than 2% as Americans rushed to buy cars more before the new tariffs actually go into effect. So next Monday is going to be a wild day. White House mulls the auto levy change. It is considering offering automakers relief from tariffs on imported vehicles and parts, which we heard from Trump's speech when he went to Michigan yesterday. The Wall Street Journal reported this news first, and the proposed changes involve easing the duties on some imported parts used for cars manufactured in the United States, as well as provisions to prevent automakers who are already paying tariffs on foreign-made vehicles from being hit with additional charges. See, the problem with this is this yo-yo, this back and forth, this inconsistency. And oh, by the way, he lied his behind off when he went to Michigan about all these things that they've done and that they're going to do, because some of them aren't doable and they're not based in reality. UPS, you guys heard this, is planning to cut 20,000 jobs this year and shutter dozens of facilities. That's just going to make life more difficult for people. And 20,000 jobs is income in a community that doesn't have it. We've talked about this before. Thanks in large part to the earlier decision to scale back Amazon deliveries after shedding 12,000 employees last year. The delivery giant has about 490,000. It's grappling with lower volumes after the pandemic commerce surge, plus, of course, the new Trump administration tariffs. UPS also said yesterday that its first quarter earnings topped estimates, but did not offer an annual forecast, citing the uncertainty of macroeconomics of tariffs. And so this is the item that I want to talk about in terms of where we are. Amazon disputes tariff label report. Amazon and the White House engaged in a heated exchange yesterday over a report that Amazon had planned to display the cost of tariffs. Denying this news report about the move, the company said its low-cost Amazon Hall store had considered the idea, but it was not planned for the main site. The statement came after the White House called the reported plan a hostile political act. An Amazon spokesperson added that it was never approved and is not going to happen. Okay. So here's where we are on that. As I talk about coming together, working together, this is really you guys may not quite get where I'm going with this, but I'll try to make this as simple as I can. Trump's tariffs have caused businesses to blink. And maybe blink's the wrong word, but they've caused businesses to pause and think twice, think differently about what they should be doing, how they should be navigating. And uncertainty in any part of our lives always causes us to back away from doing something that we need to do or maybe just want to do. Uncertainty. And I think that's a self-preservation. That's the self-preservation part of who we are as human beings. And business owners are no different than that. Now, I want to play a clip, and then and the reason we're going to play this clip that Henry and I put together is it ties to something that I don't see businesses doing, and it may be coming at it from a different direction, but I'll explain why we're doing it this way. Henry, let's go with the Philadelphia DA clip.
Because the fever is going to break, and when the fever breaks, everybody's going to look around to see who was where. And like many of you, I hope to be on the right side of history. I'm certainly trying to be on the right side of history. But for those who feel the other way, for those who have some odd attachment to South Africa, for those who are of the opinion that equality is a, quote, degenerate, unquote, notion, which a former German leader used to say, for those people, let me be clear, I am here to stop you. I am here to uphold the Constitution and the laws of the United States, which is my fundamental oath. I am here to seek justice, which equates to equality in many different ways. And if you want to mess with that, then you can F around and find out.
So now let's go to the one from A.G. Hong, judges upholding.
Because if judges can't declare what the law is, if they can't say that a president or a vice president or an unelected person or Congress, if they can't say what the law is and they can't stop them from taking an unconstitutional and illegal action, then what do we have? Right? We have unchecked power. Congress, if the president can do whatever he wants, then Congress becomes optional. It becomes marginal. Our rights become optional. States become optional. And all we're left is with a president who can do whatever the heck he wants. That's not America, right? That's not who we are as a country. That's what we're stopping here today. What we're talking about today, every middle schooler in America understands checks and balances. This is about checks and balances. This is a check. This is a check on executive power run amok. This is a check and a balance on a president who wants to do whatever the hell he wants. We cannot have that in America, and that's why we're here today.
So these two clips are from two different, one in New York, that's A.G. Hong, alongside with Letitia James, and Philadelphia DA Larry Krasner, talking about something that they were talking about the courts and in each of those clips. But the reason I wanted to link this to essentially what happened yesterday and has been happening about connectivity is that what DA Larry Krasner says is, and A.G. Hong said his way, is being on the right side of history. Now, from a legislative standpoint, yes, we have to make sure that Congress is on the right side of history when it comes to what they're pushing for. And that means we've got to push the Democrats. And so this is not about not being critical of Democrats. It's about pushing them and making sure that they're doing the things that we need them to do. We need them to be on the right side. We need them to create history, if you will, and be on the right side of it by creating the narrative now that we all have to hear, and we all have to demand that of them. And how this links to this Amazon situation and showing the tariffs is the reporting is that, and you heard what I just said, what I just read from you from Choose, from our little news report, is that Amazon capitulated. Amazon waffled. Amazon went back and forth. That's what we're hearing, that a phone call with the president was a heated conversation. And then they come up with this, explanation as to what they were really trying to do. They're on the wrong side of history already. And any of the companies with all the power that they have, I've said this before, the one-off is not going to work. Amazon's business is going to be impacted one way or the other. It has been impacted. There were people, I watched this on social media, Henry, on late Monday and yesterday. I watched on social media the number of people that were like, doggone it, there you go, Amazon. Use your power, wield your power, put those tariffs in whatever it is, whatever capacity, put the impact of tariffs on the goods that people spend money on. Goods and not services, but goods. Put them out there. Let people know. What a great idea. And how many other companies, businesses in America could do that? They're all, we've seen the shelves that are becoming empty. Whether you're a Republican-run business or you're a Democratic-run business or you are independent, and wherever you are on the spectrum of political, gangs, you should be, bonding up with, working together with other businesses in your industry, other businesses, period, to push back. And I'm not a knucklehead in this space, and I'm trying not to be hard-headed in my reception of new information. But why is it that these businesses keep capitulating to a failed business person that's gotten elected or appointed or lofted to the presidency? I thought about this early in the middle of the night, Henry. I said, does Trump have something on Bezos like Putin may have on Trump? Is that the reason that, they suddenly backed away from wherever they were on this, showing the losses on tariffs on goods that are sold? To explain, what is it? And what is it with others? Maybe it is, and maybe I'm being, naive to think that they think, they're shielded, their wealth has them shielded. But at the end of the day, I don't see that their wealth has them shielded if they have to then capitulate to this president, where the strength would be in terms of being on the right side of history. If we want that from Congress, we've got to want that from businesses. That's why it was effective back earlier this year to have the blackout day. That's why, Target made some subtle changes. That's why they met with Reverend Al Sharpton, because they know that they got embarrassed. So clearly, the collective energy from the community has its impact. So businesses need to listen to the community more so than listening to Donald Trump. They should have more respect and willingness to talk to businesses, and businesses need to stand up to him collectively. And if they don't stand up, then they're an even bigger culprit in this process. And that's why I'm giving some flowers to the Big Ten for, coming together in this mutual defense pact, because they recognize that by coming together that they are going to be stronger than one being caught one off. Like, not that I'm not saying Harvard got caught one off, but that was a sign to other schools to say, hey, wait a minute, we can't be out there on an island if they're coming for us. And clearly the tariffs have already come for so many businesses. So Jeff Bezos, I'm not going to say you let anybody down, but wow, what kind of a champion could you have been, and others like you could be, to come together and say, no, we're not. This is not only affecting our business, it's affecting our employees and our customers, and we're going to stop you in your tracks. They should be calling their Congress people as well to say, hey, you need to get your boy. So, like DA Larry Krasner says, we're going to do the things to be on the right side of history. And businesses need to do the same doggone thing. All right, Henry, let's take a quick break. The number is 773-763-9278. This is Choose Views, and we'll be right back.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm.
They told us nothing but lies.
These timeshare thieves out there are terrible.
They bullied us.
Our timeshare is all a scam.
They stole from us. They were thieves.
I was completely taken advantage of.
Hello, I'm Chuck McDowell, founder and CEO of Wesley Financial Group, and I know the tough spot you're in. Are you asking yourself, why did I buy that timeshare? I'll tell you why, because that presentation wasn't a normal sales pitch. It was a show to convince you that timeshare is a great investment. They told you it was available today and today only. They said you're foolish if you don't buy, and unfortunately, you believed them. We get over 3,000 complaints a week from folks just like you that were misled into buying a timeshare. Give us a call. I guarantee you, if we take you as a client, we will cancel your timeshare or you'll pay nothing.
Call now for your free information kit. 800-935-3377. 800-935-3377. 800-935-3377.
Paid for by Wesley Financial Group.
You're listening to WCPT 820. Here's the latest Chicago weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. We'll see a few spotty rain showers possible late today, otherwise increasing clouds with a high in the mid-60s. Winds out of the southeast around 5 to 10 miles per hour. Then for tonight, a chance for rain showers and thunderstorms, cloudy, a low near 55. Thursday, chance for showers and storms, high of 68 degrees. Friday, a chance for rain showers here late, partial sunshine develops, a high of 64. That's your latest Chicago weather update.
Currently, it's 48.
WCPT 820, Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter.
Welcome back to Choose Views with Richard Chew on WCPT 820, Chicago's progressive talk.
Hey, progressives, welcome back to the show. Today, live local and progressive, Joan Esposito's guest will be, excuse me, Adav Noti, Executive Director and Campaign at the Campaign Legal Center. Ray Long, Chicago Tribune investigative reporter. David Lehman, former Providence, Rhode Island news anchor, managing editor, and political commentator for RIBPS. There you go. Live, local, and progressive. That's Joan Esposito, weekdays 2 to 5 p.m. here on WCPT, Chicago's progressive talk for 20 years. And then this evening, tonight, driving it home, Patti Vasquez will be joined by Lana Manikowski, certified life coach, author, and infertility advocate, Jeff Garris, DuPage Forest Preserve Commissioner, Kirk Berger, president of McKee Preservation Group, and Stephen Thompson, Glen Ellen Village trustee. They will be talking about efforts to convert the historical McKee House in Glen Ellen into a, cultural museum and environmental education center. That's really going to be cool. Driving it home with Patti Vasquez, weekdays 5 to 7 Central here on WCPT AM 820, Heartland Signal website, TuneIn, YouTube, and Facebook. And on tomorrow's show, I'll be talking with Dan Summons, the managing director of Blessings in a Backpack, Alex Lawson, executive director of Social Security Works. And on Friday, we will have Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson for our This Month with the Mayor segment. So tune in, guys, and we'll hit you with a few other things that are happening here at CPT at the top of the hour. And make your way over to Heartland Signal. We've got some good articles, as always, and a couple of good clips that you guys might want to check out when you get a chance. So make your way over there. All right, let's stay on target here. Let's grab a couple of quick calls. Let's go to Rick in Florida. Good morning, Rick. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Richard. Good morning. Good morning, Chicago. I love you. I miss home.
What's going on, man?
So I'd like to answer that. I would love to answer that question about why aren't these corporations on board, being on the right side of history, being on the right side of human rights abuses, of the Constitution, on and on and on. And the reason why, unless you've studied economics or you know anything about wealth management, corporations are only fiduciary responsible for making profits for their stockholders or making profits for their company. They do not care about democracy. They operate just as well under fascism. They operate just as well in communist China. I know I've lived there twice. And it's not about trying to get them to see the light. It's about getting them regulated again, like they used to be.
Keep in mind, Rick, the China example is a good one, but keep in mind a lot of businesses in China are state-owned. So I get your point, though, about profitability. And yeah, it's a hard push to get them to. I mean, their responsibility is to the company, the shareholders. But keep in mind, to that point, and I know this, that their responsibility is that, but their decisions that affect the company's profitability have to be founded and grounded in things that make sense. So.
And they're making record profits. We all know this. Exxon, Mobil, the drug industry, Walmart, none of them are hurting. They're making huge profits under what Trump is doing. The rest of us don't like it because we have to subsidize their employees with food stamps, etc. So how are they keeping us quiet? They're violating. This is all noise. This is all false flag. This is what Naomi Klein called the shock doctrine. In her book, The Shock Doctrine, she talks about how politicians create this big splash, like how Trump is violating people's rights, having them kidnapped and shipped off to other countries. And then behind the scenes, he's doing all this other illegal stuff to help these big countries, companies. Companies. Excuse me.
Well, I mean, to that, no, and I appreciate your comments and contributions to that end. And thanks for your call, Rick. I think that more and more businesses have got to realize, their shareholder responsibility reigns supreme. No question about that. And their responsibility to when you take what Rick said and then pull that apart and go, what does that mean though? If you don't stand up for what your company is doing, then your consumers, there are more consumers than there are shareholders of individual companies. That's a fact. So if the consumers aren't buying your product because of your decision to not stand up to what the government's laying down on you, then you are, in a way, by default, failing your shareholders. So you can look at it like that as well. But at the end of the day, right side of history is right side of history. It's not malleable based on the fact that the president makes a phone call and says, take those notations off your product. You've got to stand on business of how your company has to proceed and go forward, because your consumers, frankly, even though you've got an obligation, a fiduciary responsibility, and I know this, to your shareholders, if your consumers are not happy, then you're not going to be able to deliver to your shareholders. So cart before the horse doesn't work in this case. Good point, Rick. Thanks for the contribution. Let's go to Roosevelt real quickly. Roosevelt, good morning and welcome to the show.
Thank you for taking my call, my friend.
Yes.
I have a different take.
Okay.
This guy never has a new idea. Extortion. Lies, like always. He could just say to Bezos, hey, I'm going to start an investigation. I'm going to have the Department of Justice after you. And even if he hasn't done anything, just simply the fact of starting an investigation. Look what he did with the leader of Ukraine, the president of Ukraine. He tried to hold those javelins. As long as you start an investigation on the Biden family. It's the same principle. Remember what he said to Zelensky when he was in the White House? When Zelensky was in the White House? You don't have the cards.
Yeah.
See, Trump always has the cards because he's got the power. He can never do anything against the law because he's got immunity.
Well,
he's always got a way out of it.
That's true, and that's why I said I don't want to sound naive. So let me be clear and repeat that about myself. I don't want to sound naive. I get that, and I get the power of the presidency. So not that anybody would be fooled. I get that. I'm not saying that they aren't going to be approached and attacked or threatened or whatever the case may be. We don't have the Congress to be able to put the brakes on him. And, he's going after the courts, going after judges on this immunity garbage. I get that. So let me be clear. Let me back up and say it again. I understand that part. What I am also saying is that businesses need to stop doing the one-off. They need to come together so that when that happens, they are able to then push back. That's why the universities and what they're doing makes sense. It doesn't change the fact, but let me put it to you this way. This is what I think. I believe that if X number of businesses were to say we're going to help defend each other so that we can, to Rick's point, be able to deliver for our shareholders and our customers, that to me sends a message back to the president saying, you may come after, but we're building our alliance. Because let's be honest, guys, if we go back in history, when businesses did come together and not yield to political power, businesses are what got things done. Okay. And so, Roosevelt, you make a great point. It is his need to sort of be this gangster threatening president. And I got one. I want to throw this out and see what you guys think. And Roosevelt, you can take the mic and respond to this one. I'm of the mindset that says the next time that if Bezos or Zuckerberg or anybody else that's being, that Trump's trying to pimp out has a phone call, record the damn phone call and play it so that the American people can hear it. Post that phone call on social media. I know that's a excuse my language, but that's a ballsy thing to do. But why not? If the president's threatening you with XYZ, then make it public so people can now go, see, this is who he really is. I mean, call me crazy, Roosevelt. What do you think?
What I think is, I think you're missing one important point. They already came together. Remember, they were all together at his party, at his swearing, and all that.
Yeah.
They were already together, only on his side. So they already picked. The way they're going. They sent a message already. They didn't care whether they got criticized. They didn't care about shareholders. They were with the president. In other words, and look what did Bezos just do? Gave the first lady $40 million. That tells you right there.
Yeah,
that's my point.
No,
I don't know how you see that.
No, I do, and I see that, and you're right. They did. They're not the only businesses in America. So yes, those did come together for that showing and all the things that you just described. You're 100% right about that. So I'm not missing that. They're not the only businesses in the country that are being impacted by the tariffs. Other businesses above and beyond those should. So yeah, not just those three businesses. No, we get that. I'm using that maybe as a template, and I should have delivered that a little bit differently. Other businesses in America should come together, like universities. I'll give you an example. I mean, Harvard got one-offed. Clearly the other universities have said, we're not going to let that, or we're going to do our best to not let that happen to us. I'm saying other businesses, other than the Amazons and the megas, the Metas, should come together. There's more businesses than their presidents. And the power of the people that ties into that. Again, I go back to what I was saying earlier about collective community and the energy from that. I think that they're not using or realizing the power that they have and that they can have and that they can be public about it, and not just those three in terms of, Amazon, Meta, and what was the other one that was there. But that's the point I'm trying to make. Come together in that regard. Come together in that way. Let the American people know, whether you're wherever you sit on this issue, that you're not going to allow the tariffs to take over the profitability of your company, because you've got to make all these changes. So that's kind of my messaging there. I hope that makes some sense.
No, it does. It does. I agree. But
thanks for pointing that out, though, Roosevelt. I appreciate you pointing that out.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a good day.
All right. Thanks for the call, man. Appreciate you. All right, guys. Let's take a quick break, Henry. The number, of course, is 773-763-9278. This is Choose Views, and we'll be right back.
If you turned 65 recently like me, It's important you find a Medicare Advantage plan that gives you the coverage you're looking for. But finding one can be difficult. The best thing I did, and I suggest you do the same, is call a licensed insurance agent and let them walk you through your Medicare Advantage plan options. There are so many benefits you have access to, so make the call now and let the representatives explain everything to you. Our licensed insurance agents can offer you a variety of Medicare Advantage plans. Plus, the call is free, the information is free, and there's no obligation to enroll. We're here to make it easy for you to select a Medicare Advantage plan that may work for your needs. Finding a Medicare Advantage plan can be easy if you do what I did. Make a quick call right now to learn more. Thank you.
800-365-6303. 800-365-6303. 800-365-6303. That's 800-365-6303.
This is WCPT 820, where facts matter.
You're listening to Choose View with Richard Chew on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
All right, guys, welcome back to Choose View, 773-763-9278. Thanks to Roosevelt and to Rick for adding some flavor to the conversation about how businesses should be coming together and why they should not allow themselves to be put over for any further put over a barrel by this administration. I believe that that's an opportunity for, just like we, as I said, we want to see our congressional leaders fight harder and come together and fight harder against this, hold the line. I think that businesses have to be willing to have that same conversation collectively. I mean, they know each other. You know, the folks at GM know the folks at Ford, the folks at Chrysler and Mercedes and Toyota and all the rest. And the other companies that are in different industries. I'm just saying, you can call me crazy in that space, and I'll respect that. That if they want to be on the right side of history, if they want to maintain their status, if they want to do what Rick said in terms of where they land in the space of their shareholders, then they need to stand up. They have to, because the consumer matters more than the politician does. The consumers run the engine. So, business owners, I think you need to revisit what your power actually is, and who gave you that power, and it's your customers. All right, we'll talk about this some more, but right now, what you guys got to do is make sure that you are checking out our voicemail line. WCPT celebrates, of course, our 20 years on the air. We want to hear your WCPT story. Call 773-467-8202 today and leave a voicemail. We'll be playing some of your messages on the air. That number again is 773-467-8202. A recording from Patti Vasquez will greet you with suggestions for recording your WCPT story. So make it happen. And if you have a ticket for WCPT's anniversary broadcast at Max and Benny's May 3rd, which is this Saturday, 11 a.m., doors open at 10:30. We look forward to seeing you. If you don't have a ticket, we hope that you'll tune in between 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. to hear Hal Sparks, Scott Duff, Joan Esposito, Patti Vasquez, and myself broadcasting live with special guests. The event is sponsored by Max and Benny's, Fazio Restaurant. Sorry about that. Max and Benny's Restaurant, Fazio Insurance. Who typed this up? Smart 265, the Democratic Party of Kane County, and Southland Friends of Labor, as well as the Democratic Party of McHenry County and McHenry County Democratic Women. There you go, guys. Make sure you're checking out, and you can certainly go to check out not the podcast, but check out the event on our website. Okay, so let me make sure I got this right. Yeah. Okay. Good deal. We've had the kind of an opportunity to really hear from a professor, Jeffrey Sachs, who talks about this whole conversation around why the tariffs are not working and why they're not going to work and what damage they're causing. So Henry and I put together yet another clip from Professor, I should say, Jeffrey Sachs, speaking to this that I think you guys will appreciate hearing.
The world trading system will go forward.
without the United States, basically. Trump has something quite different in mind, which is that the U.S. remains at the center of the power and the center of the system. Other countries will fall into line with the United States against China. So not merely fall into line with the U.S., but will actually join the trade war against China. If you take a hard look at what real economic power the United States still maintains, it's nowhere close to what Trump believes. Trump's idea is that the U.S. market is so central to every economy that basically the leverage that the United States gets over the threat of cutting other countries out of the U.S. is enough to get them to do America's foreign policy bidding. That may have been true 25 years ago. I think it's an anachronistic view today. And the reason is simply the numbers. The U.S. imports are just not big enough for most countries to say that they're going to shift their whole foreign policy and economic orientation because of a U.S. threat.
So if you guys get that, the part that I took from his clip, and I watched it a couple of times, is that 25 years ago, that may have been a methodology that we could use. But today, it's not going to work because other countries have grown and their strength from a trade perspective has improved and increased. And their independence from the United States has also improved and increased. Their willingness to work with other countries has developed. So I hear a lot of people, and a lot of them in the media, mainstream media and others. I hear some politicians, mostly on the right, and I even hear some people who are strong labor voices, if you will, saying how tariffs, it's sort of what I hear is, tariffs, and I understand this. Let me just say what it is that I'm hearing. That tariffs are good. Tariffs have a place, but used surgically. We all know that. We all know that. No one's saying that they are not useful and that they can be, if used surgically, be done in an effective way. I think one of the best people in mainstream media that speaks to this is Stephanie Ruhle with her business and banking background. She understands that, like many people don't. However, the way in using them in a broad brush way right now is not going to work. It's already showing, as I read the numbers earlier, it's showing its immediate impact. And Professor Sachs leans into that once again. We'll be accessing as much of his information and experience as we can, because he does bring a refreshing voice, an unapologetic voice to this conversation. We have yet another person that's speaking to this conversation about not only the conversation around tariffs, but why Trump just doesn't understand, and that he's blustering in a space that he does not understand. He's kicking up dust, and people are getting hurt by it. Let's go to the Justin Wolfers clip.
Typically, a trade agreement with a single country takes between 2 and 10 years. And that's when you've got a whole team focused on one country. We've decided we're going to do 192 all at the same time. So this simply doesn't make sense. Now, what's going to happen here, that's the worst case scenario. Best case scenario is Congress wakes up and remembers Congress owns the power over tariffs. Congress or the courts wake up and the courts remember that, in fact, the president does not have the right to enter new trade agreements. He can negotiate them, but they have to be passed by Congress. Congress is the way out here. Is that going to happen? That might mean we wait a year and a half, or 2 years nearly, in order to get there. The courts, could they get there quicker? They really ought to. Are they going to? Who the heck knows? Chris, I just want to add one more thing. That interview with Time is the most lunatical thing I've ever read. And I just want to share with you something, because it will give you a sense of exactly what's happened to the Republican Party. This is a paragraph. The president said, "We are a department store and we set the price. I meet with the companies and then I set a fair price. What I consider to be a fair price, and then they can pay it or they don't have to pay it." Milton Friedman is rolling in his grave. This is central planning, not even by a central planning committee. A central planning committee would have expertise. This is a bloke in a room who thinks the country's a store. Chris, you and I are on MSNBC right now complaining there's no market forces.
Right. Market forces. I thought we were going to let the free market dictate. And this is the hypocrisy of the GOP. Okay. So I'm leaning into this because I started this piece, this segment, this conversation around being on the right side of history. And credit to A.G. Hong in New York, and credit to Philadelphia DA Larry Krasner for using that language. They're speaking about it in terms of where we are with deportations and the judge's situation. We know that. But the language, I think, has connection to the conversation around tariffs and what businesses could, in my mind, should be doing in their alignment with each other and their connection with each other. I think the template that the universities have put forth is a strong one. It's not perfect, but I'm not looking for perfect. I'm looking for a coming together that says, no, we're not going to allow you to do this. I'm going to read this this text in part that we received that I think is somewhat on point regarding the situation with Amazon. Small businesses and large businesses that choose to sell through Amazon can choose to list the cost of tariffs on their products and their own Amazon site pages or their own company websites. Many of them already have their own websites and sell their products outside of Amazon. You can use Amazon to search for a product, then go to the company's website outside of Amazon to actually buy the product. Brilliant idea. And if there's been an increase or there's been a change in the pricing that company, that smaller business or large business has to deal with, they can then post it and tell Amazon, nana, nana, boo, boo. So it's about coming together. It's getting yourself away from that one-off. There's a quick line from a movie, When We Were Kings, from James Brown, that talks about why in the civil rights movement had power because you saw civil rights leaders together fighting, rarely singularly out there fighting. They always had folks behind them. They always had messaging and people with them. And James Brown talks about one of the big mistakes that some people can make is to get out on that plank by themselves and not have a lifeline. So I'm kind of reaching back to some of the civil rights successes, and that is to come together, businesses, small, medium, and large, and let this administration know, no, come together, attorneys generals, come together, governors, and they are. I'm just encouraging a little bit more. Come together, universities, and fight together, not one off. Fight together. I mean, that's why I've said what I've said before about the differences between lions and rhinoceroses. All right, Henry, let's go to a quick break. 773-763-9278. Top of the hour. When we come back, we'll be talking with our good friend Kurt Muller from Hoosier Blue 63. We'll be right back.
This is a WCPT moment in labor. On March 25th, 1911, in Manhattan, a fire at the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory killed 146 workers, who were mostly women. The victims of the fire were unable to leave the burning high-rise building due to the exits being locked and were forced to leap to their deaths from the 8th, 9th, and 10th floors. Locking doors was a common practice to reduce theft and unauthorized breaks at workplaces. As a result of the fire, the New York State Legislature formed the Factory Investigating Commission, whose findings led to 38 new laws regulating labor. Some of the new laws mandated better egress, the installation of better alarm and sprinkler systems, and increased availability of fire extinguishers. Coincidentally, the American Society of Safety Professionals was formed, which now manages, researches, and consults occupational safety and health across 75 countries. This has been a WCPT Moment in Labor. We are working for your rights.
Stop feeling embarrassed about thinning hair and start looking and feeling your best with Hair Grow by New Nordic. Available online at Amazon, Walmart.com, and NewNordicUSA.com, or at your local CVS.
AP News, I'm Marcela Sanchez. AP correspondent Ben Thomas reports President Trump marked his first 100 days in office with a campaign-style rally.
President Trump celebrated the 100th day of his second term in Michigan.
In 100 days, we have delivered the most profound change in Washington in nearly 100 years. I read an editorial today that this is the most consequential presidency in history. How about that?
In campaign mode, repeatedly mocking predecessor Joe Biden and bringing up the familiar lie that he won the 2020 presidential election.
We actually won it 3 times. You want to really know that?
And he says things are only going to get better.
In the next fiscal year, it'll all be done. We're going to have something that you won't even believe. We will end inflation, slash prices. We've already ended inflation, raise wages, and give you the greatest economy in the history of the world. That's already happening.
AP correspondent Karen Shamas reports on the latest from the Canadian elections.
Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney's Liberals have fallen short of winning an outright majority in Parliament in a vote widely seen as a rebuke of President Donald Trump. The election results emerged on Tuesday, a day after the party scored a stunning comeback victory. Carney's rival, populist Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre, was in the lead until Trump took aim at Canada with a trade war and threats to annex the country as the 51st state. The Liberals could be left just 3 seats shy of a majority. That means they'll have to seek help from another, smaller party to pass legislation. The Liberal Party seemed likely to find the extra votes necessary, but it was not clear where they would come from. I'm Karen Shamas.
Authorities in India say a fire in the eastern city of Kolkata has killed at least 14 people. Police say the fire broke out Tuesday evening at the Rituraj Hotel. The cause was not immediately clear. This is AP News. An NBA star has scolded his father for sparking a post-game disturbance in the NBA playoffs. Correspondent Gethin Coolball reports.
Pacers star Tyrese Halliburton is not a fan of his father's actions after Indiana's series-clinching victory over Milwaukee on Tuesday night.
I don't think that my pops was in the right at all there.
After his son made a game-winning layup to clinch a 119-118 overtime win in Game 5, John Halliburton stepped onto the court and confronted two-time MVP and Bucks star Giannis Antetokounmpo. The interaction led to a post-game scuffle between Halliburton's teammates and the Bucks.
I think the emotions of the game just got excited there, but I talked with him. I'll talk with Giannis.
Antetokounmpo says John Halliburton's behavior was out of line.
Disrespecting me and cursing at me, I think is totally unacceptable.
I'm Gethin Coolbaugh.
I'm Marcela Sanchez, AP News.
This is 820 AM, WCPT Willow Springs, and streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Now, your WCPT 820 weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. We'll see a few spotty rain showers possible late today, otherwise increasing clouds with a high in the mid-60s. Winds out of the southeast around 5 to 10 miles per hour. And for tonight, a chance for rain showers and thunderstorms, cloudy, a low near 55. Thursday, chance for showers and storms, high of 68 degrees. Friday, a chance for rain showers here late. Partial sunshine develops, a high of 64. That's your latest Chicago weather update.
Currently, it's 48.
Seems everything costs more these days. Gas, groceries, and when's the last time you checked your wireless bill? When it comes to Big Wireless, if you're staying, you may be overpaying. Switch to Consumer Cellular and get your second month free for a limited time. You'll get the same fast, reliable nationwide coverage without the big wireless bill. Plans start at just $20 a month. Here's Veronica and Jackie, real customers.
I didn't know that I could get something for a lot less money that was actually better than who I was with before.
Anytime anybody complains about their cell phone bill, we say, you've got to check out Consumer Cellular.
And now for a limited time, new customers can get their second month free when they use promo code SECONDFREE. Just call, click, or bring us your bill and see how much you can save. Because when it comes to Big Wireless, if you're staying, you may be overpaying. Call 1-888-FREEDOM, visit a store near you, or consumercellular.com and use code SECONDFREE to get a free second month. Real people paid to share their opinions in this ad. Plans include $5 credit for auto pay and e-billing. Taxes, fees, and other third-party charges will apply. See website for additional details.
You're listening to WCPT 820, because facts matter.
back to Chew's Views with Richard Chew on WCPT 820 AM, where facts matter. Take it away, Richard.
Hey, progressives, welcome back to Chew's Views, 773-763-9278. We have a couple of clips that we'll try to get to later before the show ends, but we'll see what we can do timing-wise that I think you guys will appreciate hearing. But it is Wednesday, and that means we will be chatting with who other than Kurt Mullett from Hoosier Blue 63. Good morning, Kurt. Welcome to the show.
Good morning, Richard. How are you today?
Doing great, man. I'm doing great. I didn't steal any of your thunder, and I hope you're doing well because I wanted you to be able to kind of share a recent, literally, experience you had today in this crazy world that we're in of communicating with people and reaching out to people, and lo and behold, something kind of like falls in your lap. Not meaning that in a negative way, but tell us about this recent experience that you had today.
Well, thank you, and you would not be stealing any thunder from me, but I had the opportunity to talk to someone who is almost as famous as Richard Chew this morning. Almost. Rosie O'Donnell. I did a live with Rosie O'Donnell on Instagram this morning, and it was utterly amazing. What an experience for me and for the community I've built, and just for people to see someone with the stature and the celebrity status of Rosie O'Donnell taking her time out to talk to, an old liberal hippie from Indiana. I told you this before. It says a lot about the character of the human being that she is. So, it was amazing. And
I know a little bit of the backstory, guys that are listening. So I'll share a little bit of that. Kurt doing what he does with his social media presence and the folks that he reaches out to and the folks that he talks to. One of the things that I have to say about where all of us are that are doing some version of this, whether it be a podcast, whether it be posting on social media, whether it be going to events, whether it be hosting a radio show, it is a ongoing look in the mirror to check to see, are you doing this the right way? Are you doing it in a way that's impactful? Are you doing it in a way that people can believe in? And so, every now and again, you come across someone, not you, Kurt, specifically, but us in this general conversation, come across an opportunity to talk with someone that's controversial. Rosie's by all definitely controversial, and controversial in a way that means she's pushing the envelope. She has. She's been a very, very phenomenal actress, but an even bigger social citizen when it comes to issues in the LGBTQ community, issues with politics in general. She's been a staunch don't like Donald Trump for a long, long time before it was politically, a thing to not like Donald Trump. So, every now and again, something like this comes your way, and you are kind of humbled by it. And some of it's because of the celebrity. We know that. I mean, we recognize that. But at the same time, there's an opportunity to have them share their thoughts and experiences on a number of subjects. So what did you guys have a chance to talk about this morning? And oh, by the way, Kurt will also share the sort of the time difference in terms of where she was when you guys had this live Instagram interview this morning.
Yeah, she's in Ireland, and they're 5 hours ahead of us. So, I slept fairly decent last night, but I woke up at 4:30 my time, and just was not nervous or anything. Was prepared for it. Was looking forward to it, and then about 3 minutes before I went live, man, my nerves started to get a little bit to me. But I calmed down, and it was great. And we just had a general conversation. It was the amazing thing about it, and with her, and it was like sitting across the table having a cup of coffee with a friend. That's how the conversation went. We didn't talk about her celebrity status or any of that We talked about the current affairs going on in our world and our country. A little bit about why she, left the country and the criticism that she has received because of doing that, which I think it's nobody's business, and you need to find your safe place regardless of where that is or what it is. Everybody has to do that right now, and we shouldn't criticize each other for doing that. So, but we just had a basic conversation. We talked a lot about her involvement in autism because she has an autistic child, her involvement in the service dog program for people that not only suffer from autism but for veterans and many other walks of life. She's heavily involved in this program and has a documentary on Hulu about this situation. So it was just an amazing conversation, and again, just humbling to me. I reached out to her. She started following me on Instagram, and I had noticed she made a couple comments on some of my posts, and then she shared a couple things that I had posted. So I was like, hey, you don't know unless you ask. And like a friend told me, every answer to a question not asked is no. So, I just reached out to her and asked her, hey, would you consider doing a live with me? And, we won't talk about, this is not me going goo-goo over your celebrity status. This is talking about current day affairs. And she responded, sure. So it blew me away. And so here we are today. And it's humbling.
Yeah.
What can I say?
Well, and we all should be humbled by things that we get to do that allow us to further our message, no matter who it is we have a conversation with. I mean, I'm going to be speaking to Mayor Johnson on Friday, and every week that I talk with him, every month I should say that I speak with him, I'm humbled by that because of the fact that he is the mayor of the city of Chicago. It's the third largest city in America, a global presence.
Right.
So to be able to have a conversation with him, and I could there's people out there, this is what happens, Kurt. I get emails from people now that know that I'm interviewing the mayor on the first Friday of each month that say horrible things about the mayor. And then they say great things about other people who've been in the office or that other mayors in other cities. And so, I'm oftentimes faced with how do I navigate that, because I want it to be about the mayor and not about me, where people are saying to me, I'm not doing, that the mayor is awful and you shouldn't have him on his show, and then just a variety of different things. But ultimately, it's about giving him the voice to speak about the things that he's trying to do for the city of Chicago. I don't know anybody that wants the mayor that's in their right mind to fail. Okay? I don't want, to be honest with you, let's just put this in the larger context when we talk about who we get to talk with. We want them all to bring their best message to whenever we have a chance to chat with anybody that's either running for office, that's in an office, that may be running an organization, et cetera, or in the case with Rosie O'Donnell, to be able to give her a platform to talk about things that are important to her. And clearly you were able to do that, and it does humble you because you recognize that they've worked hard in their career to get to where they are. And so and then for her to take the position, and she did get a certain amount of criticism, the saying that you because of your celebrity status and because of your wealth or your achievement financially, that you were able to leave and go someplace else. And I understand that people are going to naturally criticize that, but I would say rather than criticizing someone for that, particularly if it's about protecting their child, find a way to partner with a person's ability to have their voice heard. So my point is, Rosie's voice is still being heard. She's speaking out. She left the country, which is her right to do that, but she's still speaking out on issues that are important with regard to autism, with regard to child endangerment, and a number of other issues that are important to her. So, good on you to be able to do that. What was
thank you.
One or two of the highlights content-wise in the conversation that you guys had?
Like you had mentioned, and I want to say one thing before we go on. I've told you this before. I'm humbled every week I get to talk to you. So
I appreciate that.
And I know you know that. So, there wasn't anything that really just stuck out except for the fact of just how a comfortable conversation it was. I had some things jotted down. I talked to you about those things, and you can write everything down you want to and put on an itinerary that you're going to do, and this is what you're going to follow. And then when you start talking, and the situation dictates itself, and the comfort, and that's what happened. We immediately, I asked her via email, can I refer to you as Rosie? And she said she wouldn't have it any other way. So we just talked about it. But just some of the things that she one of the things that struck me is that his approval rating on the economy right now is 39%. So instead of referring to him as 47, we should refer to him as 39. Which I think is hey, that's what happens when you talk with a comedian. Their brains work at a pace that's how can we turn this into something that's going to have a little bit of comedic sting to it. So kudos to Rosie for that. Kurt, let's take a quick break. I'm going to go to a quick commercial break. We're talking with Kurt Mullett from Hoosier Blue 63. The number is 773-763-9278. We'll be right back.
This is Tony Moray. I'm an estate planning lawyer who drafts living trusts and wills. Since the election, I've been hearing from my clients, many of them fellow WCPT listeners, and we all wonder, how did this happen and what can we do? The how is, of course, very complicated. My thoughts as regard to what we can do is simple but important. We need to take extra care of those we love. Having an estate plan using either a living trust or will can provide comfort in uncertain times like these. When the progressive values we hold dear are under attack, I feel we must make sure that our personal lives are secure and then work out from there. I've been drafting estate plans for my clients for over 30 years, and I will use all of that experience to help you. Please call me at 847-996-0496. My website is moreylawoffice.com. That's Morey spelled M-O-R-E-E. Again, the phone is 847-996-0496. There is no cost or obligation for our initial discussion. I look forward to speaking with you.
Alexa, play WCPT.
WCPT from TuneIn.
It's Chu's View with Richard Chu on WCPT 820, where facts matter.
So I caught the tail end. Welcome back to Chu's View, 773-763-9278. We're talking with Kurt Mullett from Hoosier Blue 63. Kurt, I caught the tail end of your segment with Rosie and Rosie O'Donnell, and she was saying how she feels like one of the big challenges right now is we do put people too much on a pedestal, and we do have to kind of be not guarded from that, but just be aware of that. And so talk a little bit about that, because I wanted to make some comments, not so much about her, but just the idea of putting things and people on a pedestal.
Yeah, I mean, she talked about, I made the comment to her about her coming, making time in her busy, huge world and coming to my little world. And she said, well, no, we're not, you're not in a little world. We're all in the same. We're all in this together. And she brought it down to, just because, basically what she said was just because I'm who I am doesn't mean I'm any different than who you are, and that we all have the same, rights and things and as human beings, we're no different in that space. And, just bringing some, I don't know how to put this, just, making you feel like, look, just because I'm who I am, don't look at me as somebody that's any more special than what you are, because we all are special in our own way. And that is one of the things that is the problem with the MAGA cult culture right now is that they put this guy on a pedestal, unlike any that we have ever seen in our country. Let's face it. There has never been an individual who has been put on a throne like this guy has by his followers, period. I mean, he can do no wrong. He can say no wrong. You know, she spoke about the interview with Terry Moran last night and how Terry pushed back, and she was, you know, thrilled about that. And, you know, I don't know how many people have saw that interview or have paid attention to it. He would not let the picture of Kilmar Abrego Garcia's hands go. He was convinced that it was a real picture, that it was not Photoshop. And Terry pushed back on it. I wish he would have pushed back more, but he pushed back on it. This guy is so delusionally insane. I mean, let's face it. This guy has a mental problem. He's convinced that what he says is the truth. And for people to idolize him like they do is just...
Well,
it's mind-boggling. You know, you made the comment, nobody wants a mayor to fail. You know who wants people to fail? This guy. Trump does.
Yeah.
He literally wants people to fail. So there are people in the world that are like that, Richard.
Well, and I can also just slightly brush up that when I say nobody wants the mayor to fail. Nobody in their right mind. Let me add to that. Nobody in their right mind should want a mayor to fail. Right. But in this case with Trump, here's the weird dynamic. I want him failing in this moment. He's already failing. Do I want him to fail? No. What I want is for his, whatever we want to call, it's not even policies, but his executive orders to fail. I want that to be a failure, because that being a failure allows us to take back what we need to take back, and as I see it. And so to that end, yes, it's a situation where you got to thread the needle in how we present that. But I want to come back to this thing about the pedestal, because I think it's important in a bigger conversation. By making sure, and this is what the MAGA crowd has done, they're not listening to anything that's rational. And so it's hard to get a person that's that deep into the pool of Kool-Aid to hear anything other than what their divine leader is telling them. And this rally in Michigan was a great example. Lies, misdirection, and things that are not really doable. And what he's actually doing is the opposite of what he said that he's doing. And to come back to Terry Moran's interview, I mean, it's almost like Trump didn't even know what photoshopping meant or means when you listen and watch that interview. It's like he's so delusional, he didn't even understand what photoshopping is and what it can do. And so Terry Moran pushing back is where every single journalist that's worth his or her salt should be doing right now. They should be pushing back. They should be getting themselves on the right side of the conversation. I know that in terms of how the networks and the cable outlets run, they have to be. They're listening to what the folks in the production studios and the executive offices are telling them to say or not say, or to ask or not ask. I get that, but when you're faced with someone that's just flat out lying and being completely off the rails, it says more about you as an individual, even in that job, if you don't ask that question. If you don't push back, it says like, what's wrong with you? Are you that crazy as the journalist that you aren't going to push back? And I oftentimes catch myself saying, okay, maybe I should approach this person differently. But at the same time, we also recognize that when we're talking about, leaders, our goal is to get them to talk. If they don't talk in a rational way, then we have to get them to talk some sense. And I think Terry did a good job of that in that ABC interview. So I'm glad. I'm glad.
Absolutely. I mean, two things. Go ahead.
No, you go.
Well, two things that struck me in that interview last night was, one, that he would not let that picture go. He kept pushing back. Terry wanted to move on, but Trump kept pushing back and wanting to talk about that picture. And then the moment when Trump said, "Why don't you just believe what I'm telling you?"
Yeah.
Or it was along that lines. That right there showed me and proves to me that, and I didn't need to, but it should to everybody else, just where this guy is at. He's mentally ill.
Yeah.
I don't know how else to phrase this. And this is something that Rosie spoke about, and she has known this for years because she's born on Long Island.
Yep.
She's from New York. She understands how people in New York have always viewed this guy and the insanity that not only him but his family has been. For his dad, Fred, was. This is where this guy gets all of this. I just created a Substack about Woody Guthrie and his song "Old Man Trump," and I dove into that whole story there, and it's alarming what I found out about Fred Trump and what he did after World War II, and why Woody wrote the song that he did. So,
yeah, you guys.
But that's for another conversation.
No,
so,
but you guys check out. I saw your Substack, and well done, by the way. But speaking of well done, as we're wrapping up today's segment, Kurt, as always, appreciate you being on, and kudos to you for your Substack, which is really solid, and also the interview that you were able to do on Instagram Live with Rosie O'Donnell. Good work, and I'm happy for you that you were able to put together that kind of a conversation with someone that has a voice and is using it, and hopefully she's going to be able to continue down that path. So, all right, my man.
Thank you, Richard. I mean, when I started doing this, I had no idea where it was going to take, and you've been instrumental in giving me the confidence and expanding my confidence in myself of being able to do what I do. So, thank you.
Absolutely.
I appreciate that.
You absolutely got it,
Right.
and good work, my man. All right, Kurt, listen, be well. Have a great day today, and we'll talk soon. Be well. Bye now.
Okay, take care of yourself.
You too. Bye-bye. All right, guys, we're running fast this morning, and so we're gonna hit this quick break. I know Henry's got his hands full this morning as always, but the number here is 773-763-9278. We'll get the lines back open. We'll try to take your calls. We got a quick break, and then we'll be talking with State Representative Debbie Myers Martin. We'll be right back.
This is a WCPT moment in labor. When Serena Williams won her title at the Tennis Grand Slam tournament, we know she gets the same prize money as her male counterpart. However, prior to 1973, that wasn't always the case. When Billie Jean King captured her first Wimbledon title in 1966, she was surprised to find out that the winner of the men's tournament received £2,000, while she only received £750. After being unable to find any tournaments for women, King and 8 other women formed their own tournament, the Virginia Slims Invitational, where each woman was paid $1 before posing for the famous picture of them each holding up their dollar, with the caption, "Contract Pros." While the move was bold, the pay discrepancies continued. King threatened to boycott the 1973 U.S. Open unless the women were paid the same as the men. Thanks to a grant from Band Deodorant, both the men and women's singles would take home $25,000. Despite the progress at the U.S. Open, it wouldn't be until 1984 that the Australian Open would execute equal pay, followed by the French Open in 2006, and finally Wimbledon in 2007. This has been a WCPT moment in labor. We're fighting for your rights.
You're listening to WCPT 820. Here's the latest Chicago weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. We'll see a few spotty rain showers possible late today, otherwise increasing clouds with a high in the mid-60s. Winds out of the southeast around 5 to 10 miles per hour. And for tonight, a chance for rain showers and thunderstorms, cloudy, a low near 55. Thursday, chance for showers and storms, high of 68 degrees. Friday, a chance for rain showers here late. Partial sunshine develops, a high of 64. That's your latest Chicago weather update.
Currently, it's 49.
Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT 820, where facts matter.
Welcome back to Choose Views with Richard Chew on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
Hey, Progressives, welcome back to Choose Views, 773-763-9278. Even though we have State Representative Debbie Myers Martin with us in a moment, we will try to grab some of your calls toward the end of the show. She's been with us before, past president, trustee of Olympia Fields, president of South Suburban Mayors and Managers Association, one hell of a community organizer, and absolutely one of the best state representatives that we have here in Illinois. Good morning and welcome to the show, Representative Debbie Myers Martin.
Well, thank you so much, and thank you for those very kind and complimentary words.
They are well-deserved, absolutely. Got a little bit of an echo in the background, Representative. I don't know if you've got a window open or if you've got us on speaker, but it's a little bit of a fuzziness.
Okay, I'm trying to address that. I'm in Springfield,
Okay.
so anything can happen.
There you go. That's all right.
Is that a little better?
It's a little bit better. Absolutely, a little bit better. Well, let's get right to it. You have been a really strong advocate in recent weeks and over the last couple of years on a health concern that a lot of people aren't aware of, but because of some of the light that you have shown on it, you've been able to really kind of bring more attention and awareness to the condition known as sarcoidosis. And you've been a champion of this conversation, largely due to the fact that one of our late great comedians and actors, Bernie Mac, was taken with that condition.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, it was brought to me by someone who was suffering with that condition and thought that Illinois should join other states in recognizing sarcoidosis as a major health concern and giving it a place in Illinois' journal by making April Sarcoidosis Awareness Month.
And that's been a huge push. And you were a speaker recently at the Purple Carpet fundraiser. And tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, well, I was invited to that event, and the people actually there did not know that I had sponsored a bill back in 2021 giving sarcoidosis that designation of April as Awareness Month for the disease. And they had asked me to speak, and I began to tell them, just the journey of creating that legislation. And because it started off as a resolution, which of course you have to go back every year and renew the resolution. But this time I was seeking for it to become an actual bill in Illinois, and so we were able to do that in 2021. The governor signed it into law on July 23rd, and it became effective January 1st, 2022. So the people in attendance were very excited, and I was happy that I was able to bring that information to them.
It's a condition that is not, specific to well, let me put it this way. It's more specific and more highly diagnosed disproportionately in the Black community. But it is a condition that people of all communities are susceptible to. And it is not, even though we have made April as Sarcoidosis Awareness Month in Illinois, this is a condition that folks have all over the United States of America. Is that correct? And you've been integral in part of this awareness of bringing that to light, but also making sure that we're speaking about it on a national level.
Well, absolutely. And of course, during COVID, we discovered more importantly, the disparities in healthcare for the Black community. So the actual numbers, some of the data that I have been able to research is that 5 out of 100,000 people of Caucasians suffer from the disease, but 40 out of 100,000 on average suffer from the Black community. So that is something definitely we need to, address, but also to make people aware and educate. And that's what Awareness Months do in particular states. It brings attention to the disease. It brings dollars for research. It brings people who can maybe counsel other people, family and friends, of the resources available, like the Bernie Mac Sarcoidosis Foundation or the Foundation for Sarcoidosis Research. And that organization actually reached out to me after the bill. So I am just so happy to be, a positive force in the fight against sarcoidosis.
Well, and I look at this in the broader context of healthcare in general in the country. And this, like so many other conditions that many Americans have, it's as I see it, Representative Myers-Martin, it's a conversation of both treatment of conditions once they're diagnosed, but oftentimes so many of our healthcare issues, and you've been an advocate of this, are not we don't have to get to that point because it's about diagnosis. It's about going to the doctor. It's about being mindful of the things that are ailing you. One of our producer here in the studio, and Henry and I were talking about, waking up in the morning and having a stuffy face and a sore body. Sometimes you got to pay attention to the things that you may not know are concerns. And in our bigger conversation around healthcare, you've really been an advocate of be aware, be proactive as best you can, and get to the doctor when you think that there's something that's going on.
Well, I definitely have tried to do that, not only with sarcoidosis, but with stroke awareness. I think I mentioned when I was on the show before that, we have a partnership between the Department of Public Health and Governor State University to bring information and inform the community about strokes and how timely you must be in treating a stroke. So it's very important to know the symptoms. It's very important to know what to do if a loved one or someone that you are have a relationship with, or even on the street that they may be suffering from a stroke, so that the medical people who come out, whether that's EMTs, whether that's your primary care, can certainly then act quickly in order to help you recover fully. Because if you're not timely in your response, that is why so many people do not recover fully or even pass away.
Well, and with a condition like this being, 800% greater in one community than it is in another, that's definitely one where we have to lean in and make sure that folks are aware. Is there specific outreach in this conversation around awareness to members, families of the Black community to talk about this? And what are you doing, or what are you advocating for to bring more awareness in real time to people of all communities, but specifically to Black communities that may be more susceptible by 800% to this condition?
Absolutely. Well, I certainly participate in a lot of community events, forums that are conducted within my district and beyond, where I can provide information on those particular conditions, the resources that people can get in touch with so that they can find, concerns that there are people really there to help them become, recover from any of these conditions, or at least to get on a road of treatment. Because so many times conditions exist, but if there's no treatment, if there's no long sustained ability to address it, then most people are not going to recover. And this is something that our community in particular needs to realize, recognize, and then begin to address it in their own homes and communities.
Are there any economic factors that play into this? And I ask that in terms of anyone that is susceptible to this condition. Are there economic factors that you found that have played into someone being more susceptible to the illness?
Well, I am not aware of any specific economic conditions, but I do know, going back to just creating an awareness, is that once it is realized that this is a real condition and it does require research, you find that then research dollars begin to come in. They begin to surface in certain sectors where there is a great need to address it. And so that was what was told to me in terms of creating an awareness month, is that it actually does create attention, and it creates research dollars.
Which are critical to not only prevention and awareness, but also to once any condition, but this one specifically has been diagnosed, then we can go forward in treating it. The other question that comes to mind is symptoms. What are some of the symptoms that are unusual symptoms that people might overlook or not even think are ones to be concerned about that should be recognized?
Well, I think that, this is a respiratory disease. And so anything that has, shows up where you have shortness of breath, where you have a difficulty in exercise, or you have difficulty in just functioning in your regular daily routine, and it has to do with your respiratory. If you're having, as I said, difficulty breathing is one of the major symptoms that needs to be addressed right away, because I think people just ignore it many times, or they feel that, they're coming down with something, but they don't take it seriously as something that they need to follow up on with their health provider.
And that's probably the thing that a lot of people are not necessarily proactive about, is that it does mask itself as, you got a dry cough, or if you've got some sort of, when we're tired. One of the symptoms that I'm aware of in talking about it is extreme fatigue, and sometimes that people we look at that and say, well, I'm just tired because I've been working a lot, or I've been traveling a lot, or my life is a busy life. But it goes back to what you were saying. We have to pay attention when there are symptoms of certain things that are not usual. Representative, what?
And that's in,
go ahead.
And that's in every case.
Right.
Not just sarcoidosis, but in every case, if you're suffering from symptoms, you need to follow up with your healthcare providers.
Sooner than later. And it leans into why we do have to make sure that we've got our health systems running on all cylinders. Is there a chronological, an age range where you've seen in your research or in your conversations about this with other professionals that where it's heightened? Is it diagnosed at a younger age, mid-age, older? Is there any evidence in that space?
I am not aware of any specific evidence or data that speaks to that. I have just worked with the foundations to make sure that people are aware of what the disease is. There are many people that have never heard of sarcoidosis. So I apologize that I don't have that specific data in terms of age categories or when this is typically diagnosed, because my role has really been in the awareness piece to make people know that, this is a specific disease that could affect them disproportionately with their neighbors or their counterparts, and that there are resources like the Foundation for Sarcoidosis Research or the Bernie Mac Foundation, where they can get more information, because those particular organizations focus specifically on that disease.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of two things. One, the foundation and the awareness that it brings, but also the House Bill 590 that has designated the month of April as a Sarcoidosis Awareness Month here in Illinois. So once again, Representative Debbie Myers-Martin, you're doing the work. You're out there representing your community, specifically in the greater state of Illinois, and really on issues of healthcare, the rest of the country. So we appreciate the fact that you are leaning into so many areas of awareness when it comes to our health and medical conditions. So thank you for that hard work. And thank you again for being on our show this morning. We know you've got a busy day. You said already you're down in Springfield, so that means you probably got to get to some meeting soon.
I do, but I did want to say that, once House Bill 590 was passed, I heard from so many people who saw the bill, saw what the bill was about, and actually reached out to me because either they were suffering from the disease or family members or friends. And so that is the beauty in being able to create legislation, because it does reach the community in very unexpected ways.
Absolutely. Thank you, Representative Myers-Martin, for being with us this morning. Again, thanks for your hard work. We'll have you back again. Make it a great day, as we always say, and we look forward to talking to you soon. All right?
All right. Well, thank you so much for the invitation.
Absolutely. Be well. Take care. Bye now. Yeah, she's really, I guess you could say, gotten a lot of recognition and momentum for leaning into healthcare-related issues here in the state of Illinois. And healthcare issues are national issues, so kudos to Representative Debbie Myers-Martin. All right, Henry says we got to take a quick break, and we will. The number is 773-763-9278. This is Choose Views, and we'll be right back.
Still struggling with gas, bloat, constipation, nausea, or diarrhea? Have you tried eliminating foods but felt no change? It's time to call the tummy whisperer, Renee Barish, at Digestive Health Solutions. Renee uses targeted testing to reveal exactly what's happening in your gut. Gut bacteria plays a key role in all your body functions, from cardiovascular regulation to brain function. When the gut is imbalanced, you may experience symptoms that extend beyond the gut, such as anxiety, skin issues, poor sleep, or increased risk for disease. Digestive Health Solution uses advanced testing to identify harmful microbes and evaluate the overall balance of the gut ecosystem. Get insights into your health, digestion, and how your microbiome affects all aspects of your body. Stop suffering. Call Renee now at 847-207-2034 or visit thetummywhisperer.com. That number is 847-207-2034. Let's get you feeling better. The Tummy Whisperer.
Because facts matter. You're listening to WCPT 820.
You're listening to Choose Views with Richard Chu on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
Hey guys, welcome back to Choose Views, 773-763-9278. Let's go to Earl in Hyde Park. He's got a couple things to say this morning. Good morning, Earl. Welcome to the show.
Thank you again, good buddy. Thank you for the conversation this morning. But I wanted to go back to your earlier segment when you were talking about in the monologue and going back on the corporations and stuff.
Okay.
And I just wanted to emphasize that we really need, as we criticize these corporations, we need to really also understand that many of them help write 2025. They are enacting, Trump is enacting what they wanted in the first place. And so they may have issues with extremity, but the general direction that he's taken the country and the things that he's trying to do, they basically were in agreement with. And when they're not in agreement, they will go to Trump like they did earlier. Remember this past couple of weeks where they went to Trump and told him that, hey, we may not have stuff on the shelf. We need to back off on these tariffs.
Yeah.
So they have a means to communicate with Trump and get him to, regulate, modify his positions. But I'm suggesting that we really need to concentrate on the fact that what Trump is doing is what many people on the right want to happen. And it's just like that, these brown people who are being rounded up and falsely accused of being, illegals and stuff like that. These are being measures that, the right have always wanted to do for generations. They wanted to, I can go back to the 1950s and 60s where they wanted to get rid of birthing right citizenship. This is not nothing new that Trump is talking about. He is not someone who's orchestrating. He is someone that's articulating and implementing what the right is trying to do.
Particularly,
and
Errol.
So
go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, so that's basically what I wanted to say. When you're talking about Jeff Bezos and all these other people, we may not necessarily realize how deeply involved that they support what Trump is doing, but they just don't want his excesses to be aimed at him. That's all. That's basically what I wanted us to be. Keep in mind that this is a program that the rich and the industrial complex have always wanted to make modifications to, but we never had anybody cold-blooded enough to institute it. That's all, Rich.
Got it. Earl, thank you, my man, for your call and your contribution. Right. Appreciate you. So, Earl's point, well taken. Yes. So, I'll try to keep this as tight as I can and keep it on the rails. We know, and when Earl said Project 2025, that's the thing I wanted to land on first. Project 2025. A while back, it was probably in the summer, late spring, early summer of last year, where I talked about not just Project 2025 and who is behind it or writing it, but the organizations that were supporting the Heritage Foundation, who were scripting Project 2025. That's indirectly or part of what Earl was kind of referencing. It's those organizations, those businesses that were guiding what the Heritage Foundation was presenting and had put into Project 2025, and now on the back end or on the coming out end of this are getting a lot of what they want. There's no question about that. There are multinational corporations that are willing to. That's why you're hearing. And this is the point I wanted to make earlier, we got distracted. There are, you're hearing people say things like the pain, it's short-term pain for long-term gain, and things of that nature in that conversation. And many of those comments are coming from people who are on the wealthier end of the economic spectrum, and that's because they have led themselves to believe that they have the ability, and many of these are those same business owners, to ride this out. But a lot of the riding it out, and I agree with Earl's point, is because they want to see less competition. Let's be mindful of this. They want to, this is the other dark side of this conversation with regard to housing and the financial markets. They want to see a hollowing out, because then they have the ability, having sat on the sidelines, this is a fact, to come in and gobble up and scrape up those things that are the leavings that happened during the recession in 2007, 8, and 9. So, yes, great point, Earl. Much of this is orchestrated by the companies and organizations who are behind the Heritage Foundation, which is ultimately behind Project 2025. So, but Pete Buttigieg has something to say about that. And Henry and I have a clip that we thought you guys might enjoy as we're coming to the end of today's show from the mind of Pete Buttigieg.
No, you got to get out of here, Pete.
Yes,
so
here's my last one. I think the biggest issue facing America is the wage gap. Salaries have been stagnant. CEO pays have skyrocketed. Yeah. How can we convince corporations to pay higher salaries when their responsibility is to stockholders?
Well, it can't just be pretty please. I mean, this is where if the corporation, we have to either change the incentives on the front end so that there are tax advantages to taking better care of your people, or we have to be ready to do it through policy where this country says you're going to make $100 billion in wealth off of work that 100,000 people working for you generated. More of that needs to be going to them. And by the way, these things are actually related. I think there's a way to deal in American citizens on kind of like a dividend off of the value that's being created from AI. and from, I don't want to take it down a whole rabbit hole, but if you imagine.
UBI kind of thing?
What, how's that?
Like a universal basic income kind of thing?
It could be. There's different ways to structure it. But I think it's giving everybody a share in the overall value that's being created by technologies, which again rest on technologies that the taxpayer paid for in the first place back in the 60s. So why shouldn't we all get a share?
Yeah, we're investing it.
Instead of it all going to this tiny handful of super, super wealthy people who are consolidating their own power, the same way the president's consolidating his political power. You got these I don't even mean just like normal billionaires, but like mega billionaires consolidating their power, right? We have to have a tax policy that does that. We have to have a system that requires people who amass that kind of wealth to be sharing it with citizens. I have a lot of respect for entrepreneurs who create things, and they should be hugely rewarded when they create things that are valuable. But they created those things based partly on infrastructure that all of us paid for, right? And by infrastructure, I don't just mean roads and bridges. I mean national security. I mean things like inventing the internet or mRNA vaccine technology or whatever it is. But more broadly, and this is both on the substance and the politics, I think you're naming something that's hugely important, which is the inequality in this country. It doesn't get talked about enough. It has gotten worse pretty much our entire lives. Yeah. And no republic has ever survived this level of inequality for long and remained a republic. That kind of income inequality leads to inequality in power, which leads to political instability, which leads to some of the things I think we're experiencing right now as a country. And if we don't get a handle on that, and it can absolutely be dealt with in a way that is consistent with a strong economy and business doing well. We know that because there were times in our history, including the middle of the last century, when tax policy was asking more of the wealthiest. And also there was a lot of economic growth and a lot of productivity growth. So it can be done.
It can be done, and we can walk and chew gum at the same time, but it takes he talked about consolidating power. And so I wanted to kind of bring this to you guys as we come to the end of the show. Businesses are consolidating power, or certain businesses are, these uber wealthy corporations and those who run them. So my mindset is other businesses, regular citizens, if you will, universities, attorneys generals need to consolidate power. I started with that, and I wanted to end with that today. That means we come together with a common message that says, no, you're not going to get away with this. I know it's a lofty goal, guys. Don't think I'm not plugged into that. I know it's an uphill fight. Don't think that I'm not aware of that. I'm not being, try not to be pie in the sky or without understanding that. I'm saying that the consolidation of their power means that we have to fight that with a consolidation of our power. All players means all players. All right, guys, good to be with you today. Take a deep breath and make your life count. We'll see you tomorrow.
Thanks to our loyal WCPT listeners, the WCPT 20th anniversary broadcast is officially sold out. But you can still enjoy the broadcast by listening to WCPT Radio on Saturday, May 3rd from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. Hal Sparks will kick things off at 11 a.m., then hand it off to WCPT hosts Richard Chu, Joan Esposito, Patti Vasquez, and Scott Duff at 1 o'clock. Surprise guests from WCPT's 20-year history will also join us. Scroll through 20 years of WCPT Radio with legendary interviews, shows, and pictures on the WCPT 820 website. WCPT's live broadcast is sponsored by Max and Benny's Restaurant in Northbrook, Fazio Insurance, Smart 265, Kane County Dems, Southland Friends of Labor, Democratic Party of McHenry County, and McHenry County Democratic Women. It's the WCPT 20th anniversary live broadcast Saturday, May 3rd from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. Only on WCPT 820, Chicago's only progressive talk radio station for 20 years.
Stop feeling embarrassed about thinning hair and start looking and feeling your best with Hair Grow by New Nordic.
Available online at Amazon, Walmart.com, and NewNordicUSA.com, or at your local CVS.
AP News, I'm Marcela Sanchez. President Trump celebrated the first 100 days of his second term in a rally in Michigan.
In 100 days, we have delivered the most profound change in Washington in nearly 100 years. I read an editorial today that this is the most consequential presidency in history. How about that?
During the rally, the president shared details about his latest executive order, which relaxes some tariffs on automobiles. AP's Ben Thomas reports.
I've already proudly imposed a 25% tariff on all foreign automobiles. Any foreign car, like they do, Tom.
But at a rally in Michigan to mark the first 100 days of his new term, President Trump announced he'd signed executive orders relaxing some of his 25% tariffs on automobiles and auto parts.
I'm giving them a little bit of a break, right? They took in parts from all over the world. I don't want that. I want them to make their parts here. But I gave them a little bit of time. It's 15% and then 10% of the parts, so it's not so bad.
It is a significant reversal.